Hey, everybody, if you want to unmute yourselves, it all seems to be working. Hello. We're back again on Monday. Do you know what? I have to go and mute my other tabs. Do you ever get that when you go live? If you've ever done a live thing and you forget to mute, and then about 10 seconds after you say some words, you get them all coming really loudly in your ear. And I always forget to mute it. Joined today by 4 people. I'm not sure we've ever had 5 of us on the show all at once. Maybe we did once or twice, but it's going to make pointing really awkward because I normally try to point and what have you. So I'm gonna point firstly over here. We've got Matt Medeiros. Hi, Matt.
How you doing? Thanks for having me, Nathan.
Yeah, you're very welcome. And if I could go right the way through Matt's head.
There's nothing between the ears, so it doesn't matter.
We'd go right to the other side. Somebody we've not had on the show before, Chris Hughes, although Chris, I have to say, has been one of the fantastic contributors to the WP Builds Facebook group. He's in there on, multiple occasions each week. So greatly appreciated and glad to have you on at last, Chris.
Thanks for having me. It has been a long time coming, hasn't it?
Yeah. But I'm glad we've finally done it. We'll do some proper introductions in a moment. But Wendie Huis.
Yeah.
Good.
That was great.
Okay.
Great.
Yay. From the Netherlands. I recorded a podcast with Wendie about, a month ago. And I sent her a message saying, could you just say your name over and over again so that I can actually pronounce it correctly? And I listened to it repeatedly and still managed to butcher it. So I'm really sorry.
Sorry. No worries. It's so Dutch. It's hard to pronounce for everybody.
Yes, it really is.
So don't worry about it.
Down there somewhere, normally I could prod him, is Paul Lacey. How you doing?
Doing good, thanks, mate.
Do we all want to take a second and say where we're from and what's going on? Normally prior to the whole COVID thing, we didn't really do this, but we've kind of got into the habit of doing this just because it seems to be of great public interest. So anyway, I'm Nathan Wrigley from WP Builds. Last week, still locked down in the UK. Nothing much has changed. That's not true, actually. We're allowed to go out a tiny bit more. The government have said that we can go out and be with another person, just one other individual, so adult and adult. I haven't actually made use of that because, I'm a pretty solitary person anyway. So, it's not really making that much difference. But we seem to be at the very beginnings of letting things sort of return to some kind of normality. What about you, Matt? How's it going over there?
Still locked in the house with my 3 sons. And I think they're officially opening that up tomorrow in my state where we can finally sort of go back out into commerce, but you have to wear, of course, a mask. But without being locked up here, you can find me at mattreport.com and pagely.com during my day job.
Thank you very much. Chris, what about you? How's life? I know you're not, you said earlier you're not where you would normally be, so you've locked down somewhere else. Is that chance or?
I'm shielding at the minute.
Okay.
I'm in Harrogate at the minute instead of Nottingham, but still speaking to all my clients and stuff which are abroad, and quite various stories. Some of them are in New York, some of them are in Texas and places, and they've got very different outlooks to what they can do and what they are doing. Definitely.
Okay, thank you. I know that you're in a different place. I don't know if you saw the news this week. Matt Damon, of all people, has been holed up in a small fishing village on the coast of Ireland. And apparently it was in the papers this week. Apparently the Irish are protecting him, and loads of the paparazzi, they know he's there, but they don't know where he is.
They know he's there.
Yeah, and the locals are just being completely tight-lipped about it, which he's very grateful for. You cannot find out where Matt Damon is. It's impossible.
Super.
Sounds like a new film for the Bourne. Jason Bourne. It literally sounds like the plot has been set there. I think it's a publicity stunt.
Yeah, it's Jason Bourne goes fishing with his kids with a plastic bag. It's what about you, Wendie? Yeah, how's it going where you are?
Well, it's going pretty well. I don't have small kids, so school is not an issue. We were always allowed to see one other person. And we are now recently, since last week, allowed to do exercise outside in groups of up to 10 people. But the weather is lovely, so it's going completely out of hand because people are picnicking and people are going out and going to the to the store to get flowers for the gardens and all kinds of stuff. I don't know.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I see it on the news, and then I think, yeah, I'm going to stay inside for a little while. And behind me, I don't know if you can see it. I'll show you. There's my sewing machine, which I haven't used in months, and I am making masks.
Nice.
Yeah, all kinds of happy patterned masks.
Oh, that's great. There's been quite a lot of people. I saw one the other day where a guy had somehow managed to, he had a beard and a moustache, like a really quirky, properly kind of spindly moustache. And he'd made a mask, which basically was exactly the same as what his face was like underneath. And he went into a shop and then he took it off and they were like, oh! Yes, exactly the same. What about you, Lacey? What about you?
Yeah, so Peter and I met this weekend on Friday afternoon at the lake, and we had a social distance business partner meetup because we're allowed to do that now with our one-person rule. So that was really nice because I hadn't seen him for months, and we had some decisions to make and all that sort of stuff. So that was cool, and we had a couple of beers by the lake, and the schools are obviously going to probably open, but we're not going to send our 5-year-old back in. He's in one of the years that would qualify to go back, so we're going to just keep him off until September. And my daughter, she's already homeschooled anyway, so she's not affected. So nice. I guess that's and the only other COVID-19 thing, I've really enjoyed listening again to Sam Harris's latest podcast about have you listened to that one with the
I've listened to as soon as they come out. It's like the one of the things which I'm looking forward to every minute of every day.
Yeah.
And then it pops up and it's like, right, I don't care what I'm doing, put it down, ears in. Yeah, I love that podcast.
So Sam Harris, what's the podcast called again? It's
Making Sense
podcast, Sam Harris. It's really, really good kind of dialogue on COVID-19 and all those sort of stuff.
Yeah.
And
he was one of the guys that was way ahead of the curve, wasn't he? He took his kids out of school like weeks before it was even a thing. Very astute.
Some good it seems I've found a good couple of podcasts on The Economist as well, which wouldn't be a newspaper or website I would ever read at all, but there's some super interesting articles now about things like airlines and stuff like that and different industries, and talking about how the different industries are going to have to adapt. So I'm really finding that kind of stuff interesting now. So that's me. All's good.
It looks like a few people in the comments know the location of Matt Damon. Hello there, Max, by the way. Matt Davis said hi there. Another Monday, another sponsored by Kinster. But Heinrich, who's in a bunker in Ireland, says hello. So does Sean. And then just slightly later down here, Sean says Damon's in Dalkey, about 2 miles south of Dublin. You see, he knows. He's got the inside scoop. One day I'll have enough money to finally try Pagely. Oh, Matt, hook up with Matt after this episode's over. I'm sure he'll be able to sort you out. Right, okay, let's get to the meat and the potatoes of this whole thing. I do apologize. Wendie is going to be the unlucky recipient of the icon obliterating face problem that we have each week. Have you noticed, Wendie, if we do that, and I often do, you basically become whoever is on the screen. I do apologize.
Oh, don't worry. I don't have any issues with multiple personalities. So.
Well, that's
fine.
This is us, WP Build. We have a podcast. You can subscribe to us on this page. We've got a competition on at the moment. Go and win 5 WAS Pro licenses. I'm racing through this. This is our news archive. We've got sheep. We've got foxes and all sorts. And today it was porcupines. So that's the post that we're looking at. It's this one, WP Build's number 114. WordPress on the rise, accessibility event, and a very large attack. So we'll get stuck into that properly. First one is over here. Loads coming out of the WordPress tavern as usual. This one is no different. This is Justin Tadlock in his usual good form. Where Gutenberg went wrong, theme developer edition. As I know that Paul and Matt have got plenty to say about this, I'm not even going to reprise it. Maybe if I just go straight to Paul and say, tell us what this is about.
No, go to Matt first. Matt? He wrote his name on the list. Yep.
Go, Matt.
Okay. So like Paul said, we could probably do a whole show on this, and I'll try to keep my thoughts as concise as possible. But being somebody who used to develop themes and sell them commercially and then also have free versions in the repo, there's a lot wrong. It's not just Gutenberg that went wrong with with themes. It's just the whole theme repo. And oddly enough, in an upcoming link, when we talk about Matt Mullenweg and Matthias talking at the Spain WordCamp, there were two things that he mentioned in that video, which I thought was interesting. Is he brought up the theme repo twice, and they didn't actually dive into it. They sort of just forgot about, you know, the whole concept of it. But this is a problem that stems from, you know, Gutenberg doing one thing, the team going in one direction, the theme repo being decoupled from that experience, and then you have just thousands of theme developers all moving in their one direction, and no one really the right hand not talking to the left hand. And this has been a problem since the dawn of time. And another article, and so you can sort of just wrap your head around this. Another article that I did some dialogue on my own podcast about last week was Mark Urain, the lead designer of Gutenberg. He did a piece. It's a great piece on how they perceive the community of WordPress. And I won't go too deep into this, but the groups that he splits this out into is leaders, contributors, extenders, users, and visitors. And you can tell that, you know, there's nothing in there about, you know, theme authors, product people, right? And this is all coming down to, there's no, hey, we're gonna build WordPress and Gutenberg the way that we want to, and everyone else will just adopt this this methodology. In a typical world, maybe they might be reaching out to theme authors and saying, here's what we have upcoming, you know, start testing your themes. Maybe just at the lightest duty, right? Just say, here's what we're planning. Here's what you should be thinking about. And this is something that, again, it's one of those things that I could go on forever about, but there's no real rule set. There's guidelines. There's nobody really there to enforce them. The marketplace, the theme repo is just the thing. It's not a real marketplace that I wish it would be. And it turns into this just spaghetti at the end of the day. And it's, you know, again, I'm not really blaming Gutenberg. There's just no policy. There's no official policy around supporting themes and having those lines of communication. It's so vague, it's so open, and it's defined by God knows who. And then, you know, this is the outcome, you know, that we get. And it's unfair for a lot of people who put a lot of effort into this. And I don't know who's to blame in a situation like this, but I don't particularly blame it on Gutenberg itself. You know, the nuances are, of course, the technologies and things like that. And this will be my last piece, and I'll give it over to Paul. One of the things so we used to develop a plugin. So when we were doing themes years ago, we were like, we want to put in features into a theme to make themes flexible. And this is kind of hilarious now in the dawn of page builders. But I like to say that our small team, built blocks before blocks was cool, right? We built a plugin called Conductor, and we were heavily focused on the customizer because that's what WordPress was telling us. That's what WordPress was telling us to use. Everybody adopt the customizer, and that's the route we're going. We're going to have widgets in the customizer, and you'll build your sites in the customizer. So we bet on that, and it was the wrong bet because no one invested in the customizer to great degree. And now here we have Gutenberg. We have site building is going to be a thing in Gutenberg coming up, and it's totally far removed from the customizer. And you know, these are things that make or break a business, and yeah, there's no concern for it on either side, and maybe that's just the way it should be. But you know, these are the things that you can really get lost in. You know, when you see it from both angles, you can get really lost in you know, the direction that this thing should be moving. But
yeah, I wonder if it feels a bit like build it and they will come type approach, you know.
I heard somebody make the argument the other day that, hey, the free market will decide, right? The free market will decide whether or not they'll use Gutenberg, whether or not they go with Elementor or Beaver Builder or Breezy. But I don't think I don't think that is going to be an option, because the free market is going to be dictated by Gutenberg comes with WordPress. And it's not a free market in that case, because I think it's going to be so deeply embedded that you're not, the choice to go pure Elementor is going away from WordPress in the future.
We often have a couple of theme developers lurking around the comments, so if you're one of them and you want to just sort of chime in, do so, and I'll try and put your comment up on the screen. But I know, Paul, you definitely wanted to talk about this, so I'll take it to you next, if that's all right.
Yeah. So Justin Tadlock, this is his article, I think, isn't it?
Yeah.
So what's quite cool about this is that it was only last week that people were complaining to him on the website to say, can you stop writing about Gutenberg? And the implication was that he was potentially writing too much good press about Gutenberg all the time.
Yeah.
And so he's addressed that with part one, probably, of a multi-part blog post series with this, which isn't very favorable to Gutenberg as the concept. It's not actually talking, like Matt said, about the plugin at all, really. It's just talking about how the left hand and the right hand, like Matt said, is not talking to each other. On the left hand, you've got kind of the core team, the right hand being the ecosystem, the plugin authors and all the developers and all the agency people who are just watching and saying, okay, so we don't really have much say in this. There's some quite interesting points in the article. There's Carolina Nymark, who's one of the representatives for the themes team, actually tweeted something. She tweeted, "How do all you theme developers keep up with the changes to Gutenberg?"
Yeah,
and the question was that she was actually saying, "How it's too quick? How are you keeping up with all this stuff?" And the most interesting reply was from Anders Noren, who was the primary developer and designer for the 2020 theme, and his answer was, "I don't. I wait until something breaks in the beta releases and try to fix it then." And he says, trying to support changes in the Gutenberg plugin while maintaining support for the block editor in Core 3 is bad for your health. So this is the dude that made 2020. So I think that's that should be listened to, I think, by whoever it is, like Matt said, who's actually making the decisions here. We don't really know who's making the decisions. And on that note, this isn't Bandersnatch on Netflix. This is a really important ecosystem that is supposedly powering 30+% of the web, and has ambitions to power a lot more of the web. So we don't need to make a decision like in Bandersnatch in 15 seconds. How about whoever's making the decisions, just have a planning session of 6 months or whatever and start talking to everybody, rather than these every fortnightly conversations that apparently the core team has with the theme developers and the plugin developers, which from what the article suggests is pretty much here is the new things that will probably break your stuff. Go and check it, otherwise your stuff's going to break. It's not a two-way conversation. So my overall thoughts were, slow down. There's some great comments at the bottom of the article. Even some well-known names like Brian Gardner chiming in there about with his view and stuff. So overall, I think it's an absolutely fantastic article, and I think everyone should read it who's got any kind of skin in the game, whether you're an agency or a theme developer or a plugin developer. So I'll leave it at that, because there's so much more I could say, but it's not my show.
Well, I don't know if Chris or Wendie have anything to contribute to that. If so, now's your time. Jump in. Fear not.
No, I'm not a theme developer, so I am not really into this line of conversation.
Fair enough.
I'm just starting to use it. I'm totally honest. I'm just moving away from the classical editor and starting to use it and starting to teach my customers how to use it. So I am not even close to this.
Okay. Chris?
Well, I'm not a theme developer either, but I'm not sure I would either want to be either, because it's not like they're moving the goalposts necessarily, but you don't know where it's heading from one week to the next at the minute. Now, all these changes, I would like the idea of releasing some sort of blocks only to find that, it becomes very popular, and then all of a sudden it's broken the next week, because you're the one that's going to come under fire for that. It isn't going to be, WordPress core, is it?
Yeah, and that's the thing, right? Imagine that something is released and breaks at the crucial moment where you go and just, I don't know, you're like two hours away from getting on a plane for your annual vacation or something like that. It's pretty critical, isn't it? It's really interesting. I still don't really understand how we're going to do the whole full site editing in it. I mean, you look at something like Elementor or Beaver Builder, and it's so obvious how that works. It just looks exactly the same as it does, and yet we've got this sort of partial WYSIWYG. It kind of looks how it looks on the front end, but not fully. So yeah, certainly a thought-provoking article. I really enjoyed reading that one, and tons of comments. I mean, look at it; it just got going on and on. So he's definitely hit a nerve. But okay, all right. Well, we'll move on.
The only extra thing I'd add, is just a shout out to Pixel Grade, who were mentioned in that article. Pixel Grade has remember Oana, who wrote some amazing blog posts, continues to write amazing blog posts about some really good future thinking ideas. And then we also had from Pixel Grade Vlad on the news on this show as well. A couple of months back, and they're mentioned in there because they created a theme called Rosa 2, which is one of the ones that does kind of embrace the Gutenberg builder, and they've got their own plugin. They've also got this thing called Nova Blocks, so they've got a very good case to say we've got a plugin, we've got a theme, and we want those things to kind of be bundled together. And I think for them it makes a lot more sense to embrace. But if you're just the theme editor and you're not the blocks creator as well, I think it's probably harder. So I'm interested following what Pixel Grade are doing, because I know how professional they are in the writings and the things that they talk about. They're not just writing about, hey, buy this plugin so that you can create your own design. They talk about lots of user experience design things and micro content. And I'm interested to see them as kind of, I don't know, they're trailblazing, I think, at the moment in terms of a together way of trying to handle all this. But not everyone can do that, because they're a commercial company with successful products.
And another point on that is the folks who are doing it well, like they are, like there has to be some reward system for them in the repo to either be highlighted or to fast track. And when I got out of the theme game, when I was in it, you would submit a theme for review and it would take 8 to 9 months. And then there's so much that changes in 8 to 9 months, especially back then when the customizer was being heavily invested in. By the time you bubbled up to the top, the technology had changed and you had to do things over again. And it was just this ambiguous reply of like, well, it's different now. Well, it was 9 months ago when I submitted this theme. What am I supposed to do? There has to be some kind of way to verify good authors who are really trying to move the needle forward, not just from a commercial perspective, but hey, they want to see Gutenberg do well. They want to have a great theme. These are the folks that have to have a little star next to them. They're verified somehow so that the end user in WordPress gets a good product.
There was a bit of a play with that, wasn't there, at some time last year, where they tried to sort of promote the verified I can't even remember what it was called, something like verified author program or something, and exactly that was supposed to occur. But I think the curation of it was proving to be difficult, if memory serves, and it never kind of worked in the way that it was hoped. I think they were hoping that the community would corral whoever was going to bubble up to the top, but never quite got there. Lovely, really nice. Let's move on though, if that's all right. We'll go to the next one, which was this one. This is by Alex Denning, and it's called WordPress searches for WordPress are up 52% in the last month. Understanding the surge. I have to say, this kind of makes a bit of sense with a bit of hindsight. I suppose what he's saying here is we're in this very peculiar period. We're in lockdown, and all of a sudden most people who had any kind of ambition to build a website have probably made it a bit of a moment to actually do it. And WordPress itself, the word WordPress is kind of synonymous, I think, in many circles with website. I've many times heard people talk about their WordPress as opposed to their website. And so this article is all about that, unpacking why it is that WordPress searches for the word WordPress have gone up 52% in 1 month, which is, I mean, assuming that Alex is able to gather these statistics correctly, that's pretty major. and speaks of a healthy future, I would have thought. And again, anybody that wants to jump in, go for it. You're all chicken, aren't you? I know that I know that you do want to. So. Shall I just nominate somebody? Matt, go for it.
Yeah, I was just going to say, it's a great article. It's a lot of data in it. And if for anything else you want to click on, the link is to get access to his spreadsheet of all the keywords that he tracked, 300 some odd keywords in there. So if you're thinking of like, how do I write content for WordPress? There's so many good ideas in that spreadsheet alone. So it's worth it just for that. Download that sheet. Look, I mean, in the small business in my area, I've never been as busy as I have been, even when I used to run an agency, just helping small businesses that I'm friends with. We need to get a membership site up. We need to get an e-commerce site up. Where can we turn to do this stuff? And just sending people loads of ways to do things, if not helping them build out a small site. Everyone's attention right now is, at least in my area, on starting that e-commerce, starting that membership for all types of businesses now. Like everyone is now experiencing a new opportunity. And it's either a new opportunity through them writing more blog posts to keep in front of their customers, or it's literally selling a widget through WooCommerce. Mm-hmm. So, that definitely, the numbers I'd imagine will continue to rise, at least in the short term, leveraging WordPress to build these sites.
Wendie, you've experienced this, right? You've actually had a load more inquiries and it's spiked. Yeah.
Yeah. It's not only new people who are new to the online thing. It's basically because people need to stay at home. They have time to finally do something about their own website. And I have a lot of customers who have never been interested in their own website, who I created a website for like years ago and are now emailing me, okay, so I need the login to my website because I want to change so-and-so. Can you help me out? Which is a first. It's always the first thing they ask is the login. And I know some people Google first before they email me. So I'm not surprised by this number. Yeah,
it's very impressive, though. Anything in double digits is impressive. 12% would have been good, but 52, assuming that that's actually the truth, is pretty incredible. It kind of speaks for, well, hopefully we'll all be in work at this time next year, put it that way. Chris?
Yeah.
Paul? I'm finding a lot of people want email marketing all of a sudden because they're not seeing their customers. They all of a sudden they need to get in contact with them or feel like they need to be telling them stuff or selling them stuff.
Yeah.
And there's definitely like a rise in people I've got websites and they've never even thought about email lists. They've been collecting emails in their, CRM or whatever. And all of a sudden it's like, how do I contact them all?
You've experienced a spike though as well, if memory serves. I seem to.
That's right. Yeah, I've got quite a few WooCommerce sites that we manage, and it's more scaling up really. So before it was sort of supplementing their business a little bit, maybe 15% or something. Now it's like obviously 100%, but in some cases it's like 200 or 300% because what's happening is they were getting all these influx of customers that they didn't even think were going to be their customers. It's like everyone just trying to buy everything online for them in those areas. And it's about scaling with them, which is great because they all need dev work and everything else, and it's great. And there's loads of referrals from it as well. So
I'm in this interesting time in my life where I've gone fully into local producers, right? Like local food, local anything. If I can get it locally, I've made a determined decision over the last few weeks to make it local. And now things are coming back on stream, back to normal. And I'm at this tipping point where I could go either way. And I've got to make a decision. Do I stick with the local guy who is slightly more expensive, or do I go back to the interesting, okay, or or go back to the supermarket and start filling my Amazon basket? But I'm sure that's played out across everybody's brains. What do you do? And but the local guys have been incredible.
Nathan, be the example.
Mm-hmm. Okay, it's done. Wendie said, I'm doing it. No, you're right though. But you can imagine, especially with you've got tightened purse strings. If one of you, for some reason or another, has lost the revenue stream that you would normally have, that Amazon basket, which is $10 cheaper, £10 cheaper, suddenly looks mightily appealing. But these businesses that have come online and done incredible things out of nowhere, often on the back of the thought process and technology that we've brought to them is just, it's been brilliant. It's been brilliant to see it. Local little, I mean, sorry, whoever was that.
So I think what was interesting is this technology and these services have been available to them for a long time. It's not like we've had to suddenly develop and design all these things, you know, in the last couple of months, but they've never really appreciated the fact that the business could be there for them. So, you know, I think it's opened their eyes to a lot of business owners there where they're like, hold on a minute, actually, my product does sell online, and it actually sells online easier and better. And I can do upsells and so on. This actually, I should have looked at this earlier.
Yeah, a perfect example is there's a business just down the road from us that basically you give them £20 and they turn up with a ton of vegetables in a box, right? And they could have been selling that online forever, at least 10 years, but they had no interest because the phone worked and they had enough. Suddenly they were thrust to the center. They were able to supply things that nobody could, but they had no way of doing it because they couldn't man the phone fast enough. And then suddenly somebody, whoever it wasn't me, put them a simple website together, simple checkout, and boom. They not only were they back in business, they're probably turning over more income than they've ever done in their lives. Phenomenal, really amazing, certainly window of opportunity. Right. Okay, we'll move on if nobody else has got anything to add to that.
I've only got one point.
Please.
It's not really WordPress related. It was just having listened to the latest Sam Harris podcast. One of his guests was talking about the how luck is such a big part of things in business. He was kind of talking about how, for instance, you can call somebody a self-made, success, but actually luck is a gigantic part of that, no matter which way, whether you've worked hard or not. So there's a lot of people right now who have worked extremely hard, done everything right, and are extremely unlucky at this point. And then you've got the complete opposite of people who were not putting any strategy in whatsoever with their online stuff. And suddenly they're like, wow, I've got a massive new market, like some of the people Chris was talking about. So I think the thing that struck me about this was really just making sure that you have a kind of, if you're a business, then maybe you kind of just have a kind of nice wide net of opportunities and possibilities for what it is, how you actually have your income streams. And I think that it's great because your traditional local suppliers now are moving into digital, and then some of the big ones are having to look more local. And it's the only way each of them can kind of survive. And I think us, as any of us who are the WordPress professionals, can take a leaf out of that book and maybe think to expand our own minds a little bit into how we make a bit of, how we make our living within the WordPress. So I've not got the answer of what that is. It's just interesting how luck can have such a big impact on everything that we do, no matter how hard or how lazy we are at what we do.
Good.
So I'm hoping for some really amazing luck for all the laziness I've been doing over the last
get yourself a dice and start rolling.
What you're saying is also, it's so helpful to have different streams of income.
Yeah.
And it just it makes your luck so much easier to come to you.
Yep. Fair enough. Okay, we'll move on from that one very quickly. I don't really want to dwell on this one for very long, but it's essentially to say that the WordCamp Europe. Oh, maybe we should, because somebody's name will be on here, won't they, Wendie? Somewhere, I don't know where. Where are you? Cool. What day are you?
I have no clue, to be honest.
Where are you? I can't find you. Anyway, I know you're on there somewhere. But the schedule is out.
Yes.
And
that's me.
There you are. There, look, there.
Yeah.
Sustainable freelancing. Hey, this is nice. Look, this little feature here. You can click that button and you can save it as favorites. So you can kind of create your own little schedule. I'm having lunch there, but I'm going to go to that one and I'm going to go to that one. I just think that's quite a nice little twist. So if you've got a ticket, which bizarrely they've got a limited number of, I think it was 3,000 or something for a virtual event. Maybe it's infrastructure. Maybe it's just, I don't know what that is. But there's a limited number. I don't know if they've sold out or not, but WordCamp Europe happening on the 4th of June. That's the contributor day. That has sold out. And I can understand.
They're reopening it.
Oh, really?
Okay. I saw a post there where more tickets available for contributor day. So
I can definitely see why they would want to limit the number for that, but for the online events, I was a bit puzzled by how that was. Anyway, right, moving on. This one's in. Now, this really was interesting. Sarah Gooding over at WordPress Tavern, WordCamp Spain, an event that I've not really had any contact with at all, but I watched the video. I didn't watch all of it because there was 5 hours and the vast majority was in Spanish, which sadly I am unable to speak. But tagged really right towards the end was Matt Mullenweg. They had him on talking to Matthias Ventura in English, luckily for me, and it was his thoughts about where WordPress is going. It's particular with page builders, and I could, again, I don't want to preface what everybody else is going to say. I do enough talking on this thing, but I know that, again, Matt, possibly Paul, want to talk about this one. But he did have some interesting nuggets to throw in, but I'll hand it to you again, Matt, if you want.
Yeah, so Sarah, in Sarah's article at the Tavern, she's highlighting the recent investment in Frontity, right?
Frontity, that's it.
Yeah. Frontity. So you kind of read between the lines of our original discussion about Gutenberg's errors and themes, and where is this all going? One of the things that I like to think about is, like, when are we going to stop having a default, 2020 theme, 2021? When is that just going to go away? And there's just a WordPress theme that we're starting with, right? The most interesting bits for me in Mullenweg's dialogue at the end were those two points where he hinted at something with the repo. What about the theme repo? And that's really perked up my attention, because I am curious of what the default theme building experience is going to be like with WordPress in a year. I wasn't a fan on how Gutenberg rolled out, but I am a fan of Gutenberg. I don't mind using it as a content creator. Now, I'm not developing in it, and I think that's where some people have the largest issues, I think. But I am excited for what Gutenberg can do, and where this whole site building experience is going to go, because I think it will create, and this is something that Matt said, he said, what about another billion people using WordPress? It's a little eerie that he is fixated on more people using WordPress, and I get it. He's sort of being the cheerleader for the WordPress brand, and that's fine with me. But to what extent is this thing going to be modified just for mass adoption and not for the true democratization of publishing and open source? And I am a huge fan of WordPress for the opportunities that it creates for people, right? Especially now. And I think as we see this Gutenberg experience be more JavaScript powered and just higher level technologies, I think it moves people away from hacking away at WordPress with HTML and CSS and doing something interesting. But I'm interested. Like I always try to listen to what he doesn't say, and I think we're going to start to see something that is much more theme focused in the future, right? And that's going to be the next thing that he's going to tackle. Otherwise, everything else is quite par for the course in terms of what his responses were, in terms of Gutenberg and site building, which would lead into another discussion with this Elementor stuff that we have coming up. I mean, I don't even want to go down that rabbit hole. I know Paul will want to say some stuff about that, but like the experience of Elementor versus the experience of WordPress, there's a crossroads there. I don't know who's going to win.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you. That was very insightful. I think it starts at about 5 hours and something, the Matt Mullenweg interjection.
Yeah, it's towards the end.
Towards the end. Paul, you were wanting, and then Wendie and Chris.
Adding on to a few things Matt said, the Fronty, I forget what it's always called. Frontity, yeah. That was interesting, because in my own team, me and Peter and Adrian have always been talking about, because Adrian is learning React at the moment, and Peter's saying, future websites will be all React based on the front end, and you can do this and do that. And then Matt Mullenweg did address that a little bit, And he pointed out a really interesting point that, well, the thing is that will create performance issues, because if you have front-end websites that basically can't run on caching all the time, then you're going to need a lot more server power. And he just pointed out that for so many sort of websites, the traditional sort of PHP generating flat HTML and files is actually probably a much more efficient way of doing it, in terms of if you don't have any need to have all that front end crazy stuff going on like you would have in a Facebook application, where you need that feel of a web application. So I found that really interesting. That was kind of reassuring in a way, because sometimes as an agency you think, is this stuff going to just overtake us? Are we suddenly going to become irrelevant? So it was nice to have that element of innovation put in a kind of box to say it's brilliant, but it's for the right things. It's when you need to use this stuff, and when you don't, you use the correct system for that. One of the interesting things I'm looking forward to, he did mention about the success of some of the online events. I'm looking forward to WordCamp EU, and I really hope that it has the online Jitsi type chat rooms like what we've got going on here, like what we had on Lee Jackson's event, and also like what we had on Jan and Vito's WP feedback event, because you can really meet people. Like today I'm meeting Chris Hughes. We've known each other for a long time online, but this is the first time we've been face to face, and there's something relationship building about that to a certain extent. The very important, very interesting thing you said about themes, like Matt was saying, in terms of the direction that, and this ties in with what Matt Mullenweg also said about page builders. So first, what he said about page builders was that he's excited about the future of page builders within WordPress, and that he says that they do solve a problem that is probably always going to be outside of Gutenberg's scope. So that was very interesting, because it's almost like, okay, there is a bunch of people who need these page builders. They're not going to go away. So we can almost put to bed the argument that you say page builders are dead, Gutenberg is going to do this. No, yeah. Matt, even Matt Mullenweg is saying there is use cases that these things are solving that we will never look to try and do. So all of those people using things like pods or ACF with Viva Thema or any of the kind of archive view type things, it feels that those sort of things, or heavy front end design, are going to be around for a long time. What he said about the direction of themes with the block builder was quite interesting. He changed the question from how is Gutenberg going to try and build these websites we're used to, row here, picture left, image right, another row, then blah blah blah. And he kind of rephrased that to be saying that he sees that themes in the future are kind of more like style packs. So you would have like the colors and the typography. So if you wanted to create a blog about coffee, you'd be able to find a beautiful style pack that had the styles for the Gutenberg editor blocks already in there, that would have lovely quotes and stuff like that. He didn't say those exact things, but that's what I kind of took from what he was saying, that in a way themes integrate both structure and style. And I think it seemed to me that he was saying that the future of WordPress core themes was going to be more along the lines of separating style from structure. That's what I got from that, and I found it very interesting. I also found it quite comforting to a certain extent, as someone who's probably spent way too many hours worrying about this stuff. He's quite a comforting voice, isn't he? When you listen to him, he speaks at a very what's the word, a very sort of pedestrian pace, shall we say. Anyway, there it is. Wendie, Chris, anything to add?
No, I was getting the same thing Paul was getting, that there's going to be a separation from styling and structure, which I think is good. At least for my customers, it would be good if they could change something about the structure and not the style. That would be very helpful for me. It would cost me a couple of hours of fixing work a week, but I'll take that.
Yeah.
So it will be very helpful if I can completely separate those things. Yeah.
Nick says, that was Matt Medeiros? I thought it was a myth. It's a deep fake. The whole thing. It's just made up. He never really existed. But Okay, let's go. Where are we going next? I'll probably miss a couple out on the road if that's all right. But I will go to this one because this speaks to a lot of what we were just talking about. WordCamp events. I think this is a win. Whichever way you look at it, I like how this one bubbled to the top. So the accessibility team is going to have a 24-hour online event on the 2nd of October 2020. They wanted to do this in a live event, but I can't really recall. But let me paraphrase it like this. I just don't think there was enough under the swell of support. People couldn't afford the plane ticket to go to an event of this character. And so now, with the world all changed, everything's going online, an event like this now just seems trivially easy to put on. So the accessibility team are going to do this, like I said, 2nd of October 2020. It's called WP Accessibility Day. Obviously, a very important part of the work that we do. I fear, like everybody else, I'm sure you can raise your hand and saying that very often it kind of gets relegated to the last thing you ever think about. But hopefully, with the team putting this online event on, it'll come to the front.
Weren't there events happening like this last year? Like live events? I know there were some meetups doing accessibility focused contributing.
Yeah, I don't know that there was anything on quite this scale where the whole purpose of the entire event.
Scale, but there was I think there was an accessibility day where several meetups did something with accessibility.
Excuse me, I'm just tapping my light because it's decided it wants to blink. Yeah, you could be right. You could very well be right. But they haven't come across my path, but this one seems interesting. Anyway, this is Sarah Gooding again on Tavern. Links in there if you want to go and check it out. Okay, doke. Moving on. WP water cooler. What was this one? Oh, this is just this. I know that just about everybody in here understands the importance of this project. Matt, in fact, is selling merchandise, of which a proportion of every sale is going to, well, I was going to say WP and Op. WP and Op, as you may know, was a charity based in the UK to support and promote mental health within the WordPress community. There's a podcast and there's a whole load of support events that they put on and so on and so forth. Well, they've decided to pivot. So WP and Op itself is no more. The website is still existing, but the intention going forwards is that it's going to be now called Big Orange Heart, which for my money is a total win. I can totally identify with that branding more. A perfect example of this is my wife never could get what WP and Op actually meant. You know, there was just no connection in her head with that, what they actually did. Whereas Big Orange Heart, and with a couple of looks at the logo and so on, she got it. So that's what it's now called. And Dan Maybe went over onto the WP Water Cooler podcast this week and explained how that was all done and why it was done. In a nutshell, it's done to have a bigger remit. It's done to be available to WordPress people as well as anybody else who is in the remote working community. So, you know, they can hopefully reach out to more people, and anybody who doesn't have any contact with WordPress still can feel that they can get in touch and get the support that they need. Brilliant. Anybody?
The only thing I want to say is that's Bridget Willard, yeah?
It is, yep.
Yeah. So I think if you have opportunity to watch any of her talks, go check them out. She's so full of energy. It's amazing. She's so much fun. I met her on the yeah. I met her on the Dopey Feedback event, and just so glad to connect with that person. She's so much fun, like Wendie says. So yeah, go and check out the Water Cooler podcast.
Also check out her talks on WordPress TV. Because she does a lot of, I don't know a lot, but I've seen a couple talks on community and how to connect to people and stuff like that.
Can I just say, I got Nick Gullett's comment wrong. I thought you said Matt Mullenweg. It doesn't say that, does it? It says, wait, is that Matt Medeiros? I honestly thought he was talking about Mullenweg. Yes, he's there. Look, he's real. Thought he was a myth. It's him. So apologies about that. I do want to show you the new Big Orange Heart website. Here it is, bigorangeheart.org. This, by the way, is one of those headless things. It's built on top of the Stratic I'll just say hosting company for just to keep it simple. It's a different approach to hosting. It's kind of flattened. You have to log into some sort of virtually spun up VPS, make all your changes, click save, wait half an hour, and it all goes live. And it's blooming fast. And Dan, I know, and the team there have done a really good job getting that working. So yeah. Anybody before I move on from Big Orange Heart? We
made a podcast recently for WP and Up.
We did. In fact, look, if we go here and count the seconds, I've just clicked it. Oh, it's there straight away. Look, there you are.
Ah, there I am.
Yay. Surrounded by, oh, look, you are totally boxed in by orange boxes saying together. Yeah, you get a picture. Yeah, nice. Very impressive. Well, I tell you, apart from, sorry, Chris, Chris is I think everybody else has been on it. So, Chris, I'm going to extend you an invite to come on the Big Orange Heart podcast very, very soon. Right, where are we next? Now, this... Oh, as if Elementor needed to get any bigger, I think they're about to on a gigantic scale. So, love them or hate them, Envato sell products of, how should we describe the quality of their products? Mixed sometimes is possibly the best way of saying it. Some of them good, some of them bad, famous for having themes which do everything. And they've decided that they're going to kick off a new marketplace for Elementor. Basically, you go over to their, their website and you filter down for Elementor Page Builder, and they've got 200 template kits. And if I click on this button, no doubt that page will open up. They've started out with Elementor. This is nothing official. The guys at Elementor, I don't think, are actually in the back pocket of Envato. I don't know that for sure. But anyway, you've got these 200 template kits with a whole ton of functionality built in. And, as if they needed a bigger audience, they've just got one. The Envato guys are huge. And I know this will be of interest to some of you. So the field's open. Comment as you feel necessary.
I think it's brilliant. I have to say, well done, Envato, for reversing the process of extinction, because they were, everyone was just starting to forget about this organization. Companies where some of the big players were moving out of the Envato marketplace and going either open source or just selling their products on their own. And the reputation seemed to be, in my bubble, which is a bubble, I will say that. In my world bubble, it seemed that Envato was losing relevance quickly. And to take on this with the and jump on the back with Elementor seems like a really smart move, because Envato was selling all these WordPress stuff and Elementor is almost on its own thing now. Why not go with where the market is? And I think that the original market of Envato moved to things like an Elementor, and so they basically just said, "Hey, where are you going?" And they've just chased after them and say, "Hey, we're relevant again. Come back to us, and we've got some cool stuff for you." So. Great business move. I'm not an Elementor user whatsoever, so I won't be making any use of it at all. But I just think for those users, I think it's probably a good thing. I can't see what can be bad about this for anyone who likes this kind of stuff.
There was a period of my life when, and I say this without reservation, I'm sure this is true, when I went to Envato's products, their brands, Code Canyon, Theme Forest, and all that, multiple times a day. Just like literally habitually went over there and saw what kind of form plugin I could buy for like $2. And I don't know when that stopped, but it permanently went out of my consciousness, like totally gone.
Same happened for me. Exactly the same thing.
Yeah, and so all of a sudden things like this popping up, and if you've never been back to Envato and you're into Elementor, I can't see. I think there's no way you're not going to go and explore it. You're at least going to click around a bit. I mean, you may never return, but you're going to start playing a bit. And depending on the quality of the stuff that's in there, one hopes that they've vetted that. But anyway, sorry, enough from me. If anybody else wants to jump in.
Yeah, I think it's a really good move what they're doing. I'm not sure how it's going to. I mean, if they're after casual users, it's confusing because you have to install. They've got 3 different plugins now in WordPress, and so one of them was their template kits, which they launched like last year, maybe 2018. You install that, and there's 165 free template kits immediately from Envato that they commissioned. And you can install it, and then when you install the template kit, you can actually just install each page. So it's not like changing your entire theme. It's just changing a page or importing one page. And then they have these premium themes, which if you subscribe to Elements, you get access to another 200. So, another 200 kits. So you've got like 400 kits roughly available just for a monthly subscription. But you don't use the kits that they're selling individually on their store through this plugin. You install another plugin, which just imports these. And that doesn't link to an account or anything. You have to upload a zip file. So it's definitely not going to be for end users. I mean, it's difficult with a client asking them to upload a plugin. This is something even more technical for them. They've got to bury deep somewhere and then import and so on. But it is really cool, and it's really cool for people that want to start selling perhaps as well, because I've always seen like Theme Forest and Code Canyon as like a sort of mini Kickstarter type thing. Some really successful plugins like WP data tables and stuff have grown huge on there and then eventually moved off and become their own, proper thing and, and enhance their products and so on. Yeah. So I think for some designers, I installed the export template kit as well, which allows you to design the Elementor pages and then bundle them up in a zip to then upload to Envato to sell. And it's really nice the way they've done it with a wizard.
That's really smart.
Yeah. But that is another separate plugin as well. And they don't keep them all under the same menu. Some are down the side, some are in the tools. They're all over the show.
So you got 5 different plugins.
Yeah.
Hooray!
It's very very Code Canyon style, definitely. But the way they do it for selling, I think, is going to be good. So if there's anybody out there that's great at creating, theme pages, sort of Elementor pages, whether it's like landing pages or whatever, or a specific style of pages for a certain business vertical, then this is brilliant because it allows you a really easy and quick way to bundle it together and start selling it. And then if it takes off, maybe they will launch their own site off the back of it,
Here's a thought. If you are Elementor, if you're one of their guys right at the top, is this going to annoy you? Is this going to tick you off that basically, wouldn't you think Elementor are thinking about doing this exact same thing, just bundling up some sort of marketplace, but they got beaten to it? I don't know. Yeah. I'm literally throwing that out there. I have no insight into that whatsoever.
That's a very good point. Yeah,
you'd be thinking,
it's going to get the popcorn out for that one.
Yeah,
that's what I thought they were going to do when this investment. Well, before they got this large investment element,
15 million.
I thought the way forward was they were slowly moving to the point where it was going to become more of a SaaS, where you really needed to have their, a subscription keep going. So if the plugin, already when the plugin expires, you can't move certain elements around or insert them anymore. That's it. Gates them off. But I did think that at some point perhaps they would open it up so that people could sell their templates, and then they could just be installed via the Pro version and so on. But it looks like Envato has definitely, jumped to it and beaten them basically.
Yeah, the article where I got this from, which was Justin over at the Tavern again, he did go to pains to point out that there was no connection. There we go. Whilst this is not an official partnership, at least not on paper, it further broadens Elementor's page builder. So yeah, you can't argue from that point of view, but also from a revenue stream point of view, you would wonder if this was something that the Elementor guys will. Oh, here we go. Yeah, Bernard's saying he reckons that'll happen. Yeah. Okay.
I think you had a comment you just put up just now about Elementor will soon launch their own template kit. That's Messiah from Artbees, who is behind the Jupiter X theme. So Jupiter X, so you've met Messiah before, I think, Nathan, at WordCamp. And they obviously were on Envato, and then they went totally open source with their theme and sell it directly. And I think they kind of unofficially partner with Elementor because it's one of the things that loads in when you use their theme. So it's good to have some insight from a ex-Envato. I think Jupiter X was quite a popular theme on there.
Isn't that how Yith got started as well? Didn't they begin over there as well?
Didn't know that if Yith was on Envato. We'd have to ask Ronald.
I do sincere apologies to the team at Yith if that is if Ronald's watching, he can probably go no, all in capital letters. I think really we're kind of out of time. Let me just go back to the article, put that back up on the page because we're kind of running out of time. Let's just have a look, see if anything of this lot catches your attention. Whole load of deals in there. There's a very minor update to WooCommerce. I say that's not that minor, but click on the link. This I do want to mention this one because I just can't believe this isn't in core. Go and check this one out. Drag and drop menu items. What a simple premise. So instead of clicking this button, then scroll down to here and click add to menu, then finding the thing at the bottom and dragging it in. Yeah, what you do. Yeah, all at the bottom. And this thing doesn't get any bigger. And so now what you do with this plugin is you grab it, you click on it, and you put it where you want it. And it's done. But you can't do sub-menu items. But I just thought that was quite neat. Bunch of deals there. Load of security stuff that we won't go into. Loads. A few jobs. WooCommerce, Freemius, WooFence. WooFence. WordFence. WooFence stops you selling anything on your WordPress website. And what else? No, that's all I've got because our time is up. Oh, one last one. Very quick. Very, very quick. Look at that, some kind of advertising blocking
it's your
stuff.
VPN, isn't it?
Yeah, it probably is. I had to go on with VPN. By the way, if anybody knows anything about what was it called, Homebrew on a Mac, and why it might have killed my Wi-Fi connection, please let me know. But this last one is Zoom is now available. Sorry, the Zoom competitor, Facebook, whatever it's called, Facebook Uber Message, gargantuan amounts. It's now available. You can put like 3 gazillion people in there and it'll work. And there you go. That's all I got. Anybody want to tell us what they're doing this week before we finally say sayonara? Feel free, incidentally, if you've got something you'd like to promote, then do it. I haven't. So I'll send it straight to Matt over that side. What you up to this week, Matt? And anything you want to tell us about?
Yeah, so I will be interviewing Dan Maybe and talking about that transition to a big orange heart. And if you go to store.mattreport.com, you can get a t-shirt like this. You can get a hat, and 100% of the profits go to, well, on the site it still says WPN up, but it'll be a big orange heart. And then I'm also donating anyone who sponsors the show. 20% of the profits go to a big orange heart now as well. So
nice.
Doing as much as I can to help support that awesome organization.
Just so that we're clear, Paul Lacey, why aren't you wearing your hat? Because every week, Matt, he wears your hat. But this week he's decided not to. Was it you just didn't want to like confuse people?
Look, Matt knows I love him. Right. I didn't want to push
a fanboy.
Yeah, exactly. I just didn't want to get a restraining order or something. So I've held back. I've held back this week. But I'm just waiting for my new one to arrive, which is camo style with black text. I think
I actually have it over there.
Hang on. Let's put it up. Come on. What is it?
I'm looking forward to that.
Mattreport.com. Is that? Have I got that right?
Yep.
My mouse is so loud. There we go. There you go. Store. Which one, Paul? Do I keep scrolling?
Yeah, go to the Facebook there.
This fella. Look at
this
that.
one. I want to look bad. I think I look really cool in that one.
Paul, can I just say?
Yeah.
You usually look fairly bad.
Oh, thanps. Yeah. Yeah, in a good way. Yeah.
Yeah, bad. You know, in that kind
that's
of
what you meant,
contemporary bad is good.
Way.
Yeah.
That's what you meant.
Yeah. Okay, Chris. Anything happening to you this week?
I'm going to be implementing a new purchase, actually. I've been messing around for months, and I took a plunge last night, actually, after chatting to Matt. And I've got a bunch of funnel packs to work through this week. So, finally. One of the reasons I've held off so long is it's because I know I have to commit time. That's what it is. I have to sit down, close all the tabs and everything, get out of AppSumo, and just, sit down and implement these things. So I'm doing it. I've already wasted, or I don't know if it's wasting really, spent many hours in his group reading all the threads over the last year. Going, oh yeah, that's a good tip. Oh yeah, I'll write that down. I'll do that.
That's nice. And Matt, I think, is watching. I'm pretty sure I saw a comment of Matt's pop up a few moments ago. Yeah, look, there he is. Matt, good stuff for Matt. He was making a comment about Matt Report. produce a minute ago. God, there's too many comments. I really can't keep a track of it. Woo! Funnel packs. Wendie, anything?
I will be recording my WordCamp talk this week.
Ooh. Do you have it all like super carefully planned, or do you wing it a bit, or is it like word for word?
I am so bad in this super. I wish I was somebody who could just plan it and then rehearse it and do it like that. And I am so bad at that. And also, the audience really helps me out normally.
Yeah.
Just with pre-recorded is kind of hard.
Yeah.
So it needs to be done by tomorrow. So I'm doing that today.
No.
I've been playing around a bit, and I have been. Well, I did the talk before, so it's not like new stuff. It's just that I have to do a 45-minute talk, push it back to 10 minutes, which is going to be exciting.
Nice. Yeah.
And I have a personal thing. My best friend is getting married on Monday, which is going to take some time to have some fun before that because, well, with the coronavirus, it's going to be an extremely small wedding.
Yeah.
And the whole wedding party is postponed until next year. But having your best friend getting married and just going into City Hall and out again in 15 minutes, that's not gonna happen. So I'm gonna surprise her with some little fun things before and after.
Oh, how lovely. That's really nice.
The 15 minutes of official stuff.
Yeah. Oh, that's lovely. Just a bit of advice, Wendie. Don't install Homebrew in the next hour or two. Otherwise, you too could lose your internet connection and therefore not be able to upload your WordCamp
I'm not
Europe.
Working on
Yeah,
Apple.
don't.
I'm not working on a Mac, so do not worry. Do not worry.
I don't know what I've done. And Paul, lastly, apart from buying caps from store.thematreport.com, what are you doing?
Well, Wendie, first of all, I'm the same as you when it comes to talks. I think about them for a year and then knock them out on the last couple of days with a couple of slides that's pictures. But I had to also record a pre-recorded one for Lee Jackson's event a few weeks ago, and I could not freestyle in the way that I normally would in front of actual people right there. There's some I don't know if you find it the same. There's some kind of pressure that stops you from pausing and laughing at yourself. But so
well, I have no problem with laughing at myself. I mean,
yeah, well, it's more like just no, that sounds ridiculous. Don't say that. So, but
right.
So I actually had to write it all out. I just had to write it all out and then read it. But it was still the way I would speak and everything, and that was the only way I could do it. After about 1,500 takes, I couldn't do it.
Right, that's comforting, considering it needs to be done by tomorrow. 1,500 takes for tonight.
No, I did it all in one evening though, so it wasn't too bad.
Oh, cool,
I recorded the slide changing. I recorded the slide changing after, and I know another person who spoke at that event who did it all the day before as well, and did a fantastic talk as well. I'm not going to name and shame who that was.
Good. So there is hope.
Yeah, you'll be fine. You'll be fine.
You will be. Yeah. Nick says your ATL talk was great. However,
likewise, Nick.
Somewhat controversially, and I'm sure we can all identify with this. Puneet, though, is pointing out the bombshell. Why does Paul Lacey look dull? I don't know. It's just the way he was born, Puneet. It's just the way he was born. Poor chap.
He's talking about the lighting. Thank you very much.
I think you've smeared your thumb across the lens, haven't you?
Yeah, I think so. I've tried to clean it a number of times, but
yeah.
Anyway, I should mention what I'm doing this week is I'm trying to get a loan from the bank, one of those government loans, so that we can hire a project manager for Dicky Birds, because we want to take some of our own advice that we've spoken about before and stop just trying to expand through growing more techies into the company. So that's my plan today. I've applied for the new bank account that I need to, and I'm going to hopefully get a loan this week and get someone new on the team to put me more into a marketing and strategy role. I'm really hoping. That's totally outside of my comfort zone. I am not a thinker like that. I am a buy more of me and hope that they do the same thing, which has never worked out in a decade now. So it's time to try something.
Bit of a rethink.
Try to try something different.
Yeah.
So what's the
when you get some of that money through, get yourself a nice webcam, mate. That's
I've got one. It's in the office, and I was going to go there today because we can't go there now. But then my wife made me a wonderful lunch, but she made it a bit late. Damn it! So so I didn't have time to eat it and then run to the office.
well.
So, but it was so nice. It was so nice.
Bombshell. We really should let everybody go. Thank you, WP Builds. We'll be back next week. This time, probably some different people. I can't remember who's on, but thank you to Matt. Thank you to Chris and Wendy and Paul. Really appreciate it. I'm going to put the little slide thing up, and if you wouldn't mind muting your mics, that would be very helpful. But don't go away because I'll be right back. See you later. Bye.